One is doing medicine, second is doing engineering, and third is becoming a failure, right? So I definitely wanted to become a failure. I wanted to not do engineering specifically. I wanted to become a journalist. I was a very average guy. But second, one thing which I had was perseverance. I never gave up.
Great.
I knew that I'm from a tier two engineering campus. Network, go and meet people. It won't happen. So one advice to my young self is, if I would have to give, what I ensured, if people work 8 hours a day, I work 16 hours. So I did it for the first 3 years of my career. Moved to New York because I always felt that this is a place for all misfits, right? People who are all misfits, who do not obey the status quo. Certifications are a piece of crap. A piece of paper cannot tell you what it is.
Absolutely.
I mean, I'm a huge fan, follower of Shah Rukh Khan.
Wow.
Right? So he was another motivation, inspiration.
I have one question for all of you. How many of you believe that you need a fancy degree like MBA or MTech or a degree from a premium institutes like IIT, IIM, Stanford, Harvard to be successful in your life? Well, today we have someone who defies it all. We have Anurag Mukherjee with us, and Anurag's journey is basically a prime example of what a hard work, perseverance, and a right decision taken at the right time can do to your career. Well, again, there's a very interesting story how I met Anurag. I met Anurag in 2021. He was my GMAT student. After that, we both have seen a fair share of a journey, and we are meeting today in this podcast. So I'm going to uncover his entire journey to get you a few insights and nuggets so that you can do better in your profession or in your student life. If you believe that we are adding values through these podcasts, do share it with your friends and family members as well. And do not forget to subscribe.
I've been chasing Anurag for like 3 months, and there's a specific reason for it, right? I am very fascinated about his career. His journey started with very humble background, and now he's taking over entire like community banking in New York. So I'll invite Anurag to give us an introduction, like how he started and know his journey until now. So Anurag, up to you.
Yep. So firstly, thank you, Mihir, for inviting me to the podcast. And let me start with apologizing that I didn't seem to be, evasive for the last 3 months. I was trying my best to
I understand.
fit this into the schedule, but sorry, I couldn't come earlier to the podcast. But yeah, thanks a lot, Mihir. So it's a pleasure coming to your podcast, and all the best for you being right now. Quick introduction about mine, Anurag, from a very small town back in India called Asansol. It's a typical small town guy, engineer by background, doing analytics consulting and growth for the last almost 9 years right now. I'm based out of New York. I work for a company called EXL. I lead the analytics practice for community financial institutions, credit unions and community banks here. Prior to EXL, I was a consultant with Accenture. So my career has been started from being a software developer around 2014 with Accenture, then moved paths, moved into consulting, moved into analytics, did analytics consulting for like 8.5 years, and now managing revenue, growing revenue, and more on the business side, responsible for P&L growth as well as innovation. So that's pretty much about me, I would say, very quickly. And apart from what I do from my daily work, I also run a podcast similarly like you. It was an experiment 6 months back. I run a podcast called Women of Community Banking, where I interview women leaders of credit unions and community banks here in the US. So that's another newfound hobby. I mean, when people used to ask me, what's your hobby? I never had a hobby, right? But this is potentially one of my newfound hobbies right now. Right. So let's see how it goes.
Absolutely.
So, yep. Thank you again, Mihir, for inviting me.
Great, man. Great. I want to tell all our viewers, this show started, like the Next Grad show started being inspired by Anurag. I saw him doing the podcast and calling all his guests. I mean, I was really super pumped up. Said, why not to do something for our community, for students back in India and across the globe, not only in India, across the globe, right? Because I believe the challenges with students is common across the globe. So I believe this is a kind of an initiative to help them in their career moving forward. So Anurag, awesome. I mean, very inspiring journey. Let's dive into a bit deeper into your entire journey up till now. So, talk about your engineering experiences. I know that you come from a college in Bengal, I guess. Bengal, right.
In Kolkata,
In Kolkata,
yes.
right, in Kolkata. So, walk us through your entire journey, like entire your academic journey. Like, what did you study, and how has been your entire, I mean, like an academic pursuit?
I mean, there's a common thing I talk about in my
Mm-hmm.
podcast, right? So in India, broadly, there are three things that you can do after your school, right? One is doing medicine, second is doing engineering, and third is becoming a failure, right? So I definitely wanted to become a failure. I wanted to not do engineering specifically. I wanted to become a journalist. But as things conspire, small town guy, safety net. So yeah, took up engineering. So I went to a college called Heritage back in Kolkata. So I mean, I didn't want to do engineering, but still I went on to doing engineering. But I loved those 4 years. And that doesn't mean that I was there in the classes all the
Mm-hmm.
time. It was not. I was the best of the students. I was a typical bottomer in the engineering college who did everything apart from sitting inside the class,
Okay.
right? So those 4 years were real fun. So I think I strongly believe whatever I do right now, or maybe whatever I'll do in the next couple of years or in the next
Mm-hmm.
decade, right? Those 4 years of engineering have played a huge, huge part in what I do today,
Right.
right? So I was like, all things apart from studying, what does that mean? I was a treasurer of my college. I ran elections. I
Wow.
ran fests.
Nice.
I even did, if I remember correctly, multi-level marketing. I did B2C
Okay.
sales when I was like 19,
Okay.
right? So that was very fascinating to me. That at least helped me understand about consumer economy. That helped me understand how people behave, etc.
Right.
So I think that small portion of my life in those 4 years have been an immense impact in whatever I do in my career. Right. So yeah, long story short, very average during engineering. Prior to engineering was decently above, right? Decently above the average student, I would say. I was like what, like I was just scoring marks in the 80s and 90s, low 90s, higher 80s. Typical that guy, never been a topper. But yeah, I always wanted to do something, right? I mean, I come from a place called Asansol again. It's a very small town back. For people who don't know about Asansol, I'm sure for the Indian audience, you've seen Gangs of Wasseypur. So my place is like 40 kilometers from Wasseypur. That's where
Oh,
I'm
nice.
from.
Interesting.
So yeah, was uh, exactly. So I went to school near in Asansol itself. That school also has a huge impact on what I do. But yeah, so those 4 years, long story
Mhm.
short, those 4 years, was amazing. After that, went to Bangalore, etc. After that, made my journey. Not a great one, but yeah, I would say a lot of struggles, a lot of ups and downs. I would say
Yeah,
yes.
I mean, we'll talk about each of your ups and downs, because I believe a lot of people is going to take a lot of insights nuggets today. So now, while you were talking
Let's
about
see.
your engineering journey, like I had all, I mean, memory flashing back. So again, with me, it was very same. A very underconfident guy walking into those like 18, 19-year guy walked into that college, and no, it the 4 years completely changes you, right? I mean, it completely transforms you. And not only in academic, when you participate on all those competitions, like poster presentation, paper presentation, I remember all those things, right? Gathering all those certificates so that you get a job after 4 years. I mean, like, our main motive was to get a placement after 4 years, because you see your seniors
Absolutely.
getting placed and you're hyper excited, right? Perfect, perfect. So great. So you studied IT, I guess, computer science.
IT,
Oh, computer
yes.
science. Yeah,
Well,
yeah. So I mean, uh, 4 years done. Okay, what after that? Like, how did you get your first job? Was it like a campus recruitment, or you went into yourself to hunt the job? How was it?
okay, so interesting, right? I mean, what happens in India if you do not go to a tier one engineering college is it's always a challenge to get your first
Right.
job, right?
Agreed.
And I went for the same thing, right? And I mean, the college I went to was, I would say, above average, was not average. So people used to get
Mhm.
jobs. I mean, at the end of the day, there would be mass recruiters coming in and recruiting
Agreed.
you, right? So first job was always a challenge. So I mean, I'm thankful to Tech Mahindra. Tech Mahindra recruited me on campus. Then I went out and looked at other firms for hiring, off campus. Accenture was one. Accenture, TCS. So TCS also offered me. Thank you, TCS, for that. Then finally, Accenture offered me. So I joined Accenture out of my engineering campus in 2014.
Great.
Yep, that was
Great.
the
Great.
journey.
Great. Awesome. Awesome. So you joined as a software engineer, right? I mean, I see your profile that you joined
Yep,
as a software engineer, and then you switched to TCS, I guess, right? And that was your first analytics role. So, I mean, tell us, like,
yep.
how did that happen? Because I believe back in 2014-15, analytics was not a thing as it is now, right? And
Yep.
these analytics got really hot into the market, I believe, in 2017, 18, 19, if I'm not wrong. So what was your thought process in moving to like no into analytics role, and what was your skill? I would say, what was the skill you were tested at? I mean, if you can just let us know that.
So there are two parts, right? Like why, number one, like why analytics, and second, what are the different skill sets that you need to
Agree.
have to move
Yes.
into analytics from a
Yes.
generic
Yes.
role, right? So long story short, again, 2014, there was a firm that came to my campus for
Hmm.
placements, and they offered a role of a business analyst.
Okay.
I didn't know jack shit about what a business analyst
Hmm.
was. I was obviously not qualified because of low GPA. Came back home, started studying what a business analyst is. Then I discovered that there would be two type of business analyst. One is a business analyst of
Hmm.
IT. The second is a typical business analyst of analytics,
Right.
where you go and crunch numbers.
Right.
Right? So the second one fascinated me a lot because one thing what I realized back in 2013, I would
Hmm.
say, because of proliferation of internet, because of the number of the overwhelming number of applications I was using on my cell phone, for
Hmm.
example, I could see the future.
Okay.
The data is something which is yet to
Hmm.
stay, and it'll stay with us forever. It'll grow. It'll never degrow. Right? That was a basic tenet I had.
Right.
Then, after doing some research, etc., I got to know what is big data.
Hmm.
Right. So big data was a huge hype in 2014 back then. Right. So
Right.
people talked about Hadoop.
Right.
As you
Right.
remember, Hadoop
Right.
clusters were
Right.
the
Right.
new things then.
Right.
Then I took up a course, in analytics itself. So I would say there would be some, I mean, if I remember correctly, there were some very basic things that you need to learn and understand if you want to go and crack a basic fresher level interview in
Hmm.
analytics, right? Today the bar might have gone up a lot, but when I entered, it was basic. It was you need to know basics of first principles. That's a basic thing, right? Basics of first principles. Know how to go and solve a
Hmm.
problem. That's second.
Right.
And third, in terms of hard skills, I would say basics of SQL, some dashboarding tools, some Excel, some basics of statistics, nothing
Hmm.
fancy, some basics of statistics, and might be one programming language at a beginner level, maybe a Python or a scripting language like an R,
Great.
right? So that was a basic necessity to get a job back in 2014 into analytics. It was not easy for me because I was not from a tier one institution, so I had to toil hard to get my first role. But once I got my first role, I loved it.
Great. 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 I mean, awesome. I mean, I see your journey entirely, like, because you were the informed one, right? I mean, you knew that what you're getting into, right? Because back then, business analyst and a data role was mostly someone who come from like a tier one school, right? Tier one management school, tier one engineering school. So basically, uh,
Yep.
these were something that was given to these people, right? But then again, you cracked into the role. I think, I mean, you must be really really good at it. That's what I
I wouldn't say good at it. I mean, there are two things, right? One is being good at it. Second is perseverance. So I don't know how good I was at it,
great.
right? I was a very average guy. But second, one thing which I had was perseverance.
Hmm.
I never gave up.
Great.
I knew that I'm from a tier two engineering campus. I mean, I literally camped outside certain companies for
Hmm.
days,
Hmm.
right? People coming into office, I used to chase them. Can you refer me? In Bangalore, I've legit done that,
Okay.
right? So then there was a very kind gentleman in Accenture, Abhishek Banerjee was like, that time I think he was an MD out
Mhm.
there. He was, I mean, finally he believed in me because if this guy can chase you for months, right? It might be I don't have a fancy degree, I don't have an MBA.
Right.
I didn't go to I didn't go to a tier one
Hmm.
college, but what I had is I won't give up.
Great.
I will do it,
Awesome.
right? So finally, he believed in me and he hired me at Accenture. That was my biggest break, I would say.
Great. Awesome. Awesome. So, I mean, you moved into TCS, and then I see that there's a spike in your profile. You joined Accenture again, right? If I'm not wrong, you joined
Yep.
Accenture again,
Yep.
and then you basically took on the role of like, I mean, data science consulting, and then you moved completely to management consulting and analytics. So, like, if you can help us understanding that journey, like, no, you were into the TCS, then you moved into, and what were the skills that basically you required to, I mean, you had to have in order to excel in that management consulting role? Because I understand that being a consultant, you have to get into different industries, right? I mean, that must be a kind of challenge in the beginning. So how did you basically excel in that? So if you can, help us understanding that.
Sure. The time when I joined TCS, I was a business
Hmm.
analyst. So I was in BFSI. I was working with banking
Okay.
clients. But soon I realized is that do I want to focus on one specific domain, or do I want to be it's a trade off. Master. It's basically jack of all trades, master of
Hmm.
none. Right. I might call myself as that back then. So I decided that no, I don't want to focus on one specific
Hmm.
domain. Maybe learning horizontally across multiple domains is something what I want to do. Right. So that needed me to move out of TCS and move to a consulting role back in
Hmm.
Accenture. So yes, after joining Accenture, there were a few things that were very important. I made sure that there are basics which I knew very
Okay.
well. Right, basics of
Hmm.
statistics, basics of Excel. So I made sure that no one knew Excel better than
Great.
me. End to end, right? Second, SQL. No one knew SQL better than me and the entire team of 100.
Great.
So I did put that effort in, right? So if you have some specific skill sets which people can come to you for, that this guy, if anything does not work, this is the guy you have to go to.
Great.
So I firstly managed a few core skill sets, R, Python,
Hmm.
R, Excel, and SQL. Then I soon realized that okay, now I want to be a less. I would say focus less on crunching numbers, but thinking more on the first
Hmm.
principles, right? Essentially, and what is analytics? Analytics is a combination of data, technology, and first principles, is what I
Right.
feel, right? So I was very focused on data, crunching numbers, taking out
Hmm.
insights, but marrying that to actually driving decisions was the part which was
Right.
missing, right? Because you don't get to do that if you unless you're a bit senior.
Hmm.
So I tried moving into that role. I tried moving into a customer facing role. So my first customer facing role was back in Mumbai with a oil and gas
Hmm.
giant. And I realized at the end of the day, Meher, it doesn't matter how well you're technically
Right.
versed. It doesn't matter if you know how to go and build the best model. Unless and until you can communicate your results in a succinct
Hmm.
format, in a way the business understands, everything goes for a
Right.
toss. It doesn't really
Right.
matter. So that is what I wanted to master for the next 2 to 3 years. Yes, I know how to go and crunch numbers, build models, build recommendations, but now what next? How do I go and influence
Great.
stakeholders? How do I go and influence business? So that was something which I focused really on. I think because of that interest or focus, I moved to this role at EXL because currently my role is thought leadership. What exactly does the ecosystem
Hmm.
need, right? And what are the different solutions or products that you can bring onto the
Right.
ecosystem to help it grow? So I think this role wouldn't have happened if I wouldn't have moved my focus from just crunching numbers, building models, to connecting the dots on how to go and influence business and improve top line and bottom line.
Right. Right. Awesome. So now I could pick a lot of things from your entire conversation. So there's one thing that I wanted to ask. So you moved into the management consulting, and now you are basically working in different domains, right? So you are good at technology part. You said that you are good at SQL, you're good at Excel, and you are good at building dashboards and everything. Now you are thrown into a zone where you have to work in, let's say, multiple a domain, right? As you said, like oil and gas and everything. So like, how did you learn that part? Because I'm sure you had to learn the business, right? Because with the tech, as you said, tech and analytics, tech and look, business, basically all married together to give you the insights, right? So how did you learn the business in that way? I mean, if you can talk about that to us.
Sure. Like for consultants, for each consultant, it's a different journey that you go and talk to,
Hmm.
right? So for me, what I usually did when I was a consultant or I was an engagement manager was, or even an analyst, right? Spend the first 7 to 10 days in any engagement in any project learning the
Okay.
domain, right? Like for example, if you're thrown onto
Hmm.
telco, you have to go and read, I would say PNL reports of the biggest telcos, like Orange Telecom or Vodafone or Etisalat, right? You have to go and read
Okay.
them, right? You have to understand the business
Hmm.
first. Then go and focus on maybe a bunch of not articles, bunch of publications from Gartner to Forrester. That's second. And third is again what analysts talk
Hmm.
about, right? What a McKinsey analyst talks about, or a BCG analyst talks
Right.
about. If you spend some good 7 to 10 days time in the initial itself to understand the domain a
Hmm.
bit, it really makes easier for you to go and converse with your stakeholders or your customers,
Right.
right? Because you sound reasonable, you sound meaningful, and not a newbie in the ecosystem.
Hmm. Makes sense. Makes sense. Great. Great. I'm sure a lot of people are picking up good points here. And now, just one question to conclude the this conversation here. Like, if I'm in a, let's say, business school, Okay, and I am in a, let's say, engineering school. I want to get into this management consulting role. So what do you think, how should I proceed with that? Let's say, do I need to do any particular certification if I'm an engineering grad, or if I'm an MBA grad? Do I need to learn certain skills that will help me to get into the first management consulting role, right? So if you can help us with that, how to get into that first role if I'm into, let's say, engineering school, or into business school.
See, I mean, this is a very dicey question because I will not have a specific answer to it because I've never,
Understood.
gone through the business school or the engineering route, right? But what I understand, firstly, I don't believe in certifications. I mean, for me, certifications are piece of crap. I mean, sorry to talk about that, but that's
Right.
reality. A piece of paper cannot tell you what you do.
Absolutely.
That's one.
Absolutely.
Second, I mean, I can tell you what I talk to my cousins or what I advise my people in my team who want to crack into management consulting. So there are multiple groups who do practice case interviews, right, across. It does not matter if you're in a B school or not. You can join those case groups anywhere in the world, right? I would say getting into those case groups, right, and trying to solve those cases in a group to understand that what should you expect in a consulting interview, right? So I think that's the second one because you need to be over prepared before an interview before going
Right.
into that. So that's the second thing. And third, I think is the most important. You can practice 1,000 cases, but at the end of the day, you have to land an interview.
Right.
Right? Is networking. I mean, if you're not networking, if I mean these are a couple of things you need to do in parallel. But if you're not networking, you're over practicing a skill. It will be a armor that you can keep in the for decoration, right?
Right.
But
Right.
unless you put that
Agreed.
into use, network, go and meet people, it won't happen. So one advice to my young self, if I would have to give, right? I was on LinkedIn from 2013, but if I would have started engineering now, I would have been on LinkedIn from day one, right? Because the next job is a proportional or a function of the type of people whom you know. It doesn't matter what's your GPA, which school you come
Right.
from. It matters at times, but for me, it doesn't really matter. I mean, if someone who's highly skilled reaches out to me from an average tier 3 campus, I will go and interview the person because I don't believe in this category of, tiers. So I would say yes. I mean, case groups plus networking is what I would say.
Right. Awesome. I mean, great pointers. Great pointers for everyone who is kind of listening to us. I mean, amazing. So, no, so this was like all your kind of navigation from one job to another job. So I'm sure you must have faced a lot of challenges as well, right? I mean, no one talks about that, right? Coming from, let's say, tier 2 tier 3 school, engineering college, and then getting into that corporate ladder one by one, I'm sure you must have faced a lot of challenges, right? If you can pick some of those challenges from your experiences and tell us how did you face them and how did you basically overcome it, because I think that is very important to understand, like, what are the challenges we can face if someone is coming from the background and moving into the corporate ladder. So if you can walk us through that.
So challenges, first of all, I think was to get into a consulting role, right? Being from a tier 2 engineering college. So challenges what I mean, the first challenge was being legit, right? I mean, you come from a tier 2 engineering school or a tier 3 engineering school. Can people even trust you? That was the
That's the
first thing,
first
right?
thing, right? Agreed.
So that's a basic thing. So what I ensured, if people work 8 hours a day, I work 16 hours. So I did it for the first 3 years of my career. So I think sheer hard work was there. Hard work was there in the first 3 years of my career. That's one. To overcome challenges, one. Second was communication. I mean, I'll tell you, right? So I ran elections in my college. I ran multiple things, fests. But was I a good communicator ever? Might be, might be not, right? Because consulting needs a very specific
Yes.
skills, and you need grooming. People go to schools for grooming, right? People go to business schools for grooming, right? I had zero mentors. I had zero grooming that happened to me throughout my career because I didn't go to any good school. So for me, I had to groom myself. I had to groom. I had to see how leaders talk,
Right.
how CEOs
Right.
talk, right?
Right.
How I mean, not just get inside the bubble of your team. Look beyond it. I mean, a few inspirational speakers I would say I've seen in my life is one was when I was a kid, the CEO of Music Man, right, Dheeraj. So I always followed Dheeraj. You know, I've never worked for Music Man, but I always followed Dheeraj, the way how he articulates his
Dheeraj
points.
is the CEO, I guess.
So yeah, this is CEO of Music Mass.
Okay,
So
okay.
I mean, I mean, Dheeraj was another reason I would say an inspiration for a lot of people like us who thought that coming from a tier 2 or tier 3 engineering college, you can go crack the ecosystem and do your best,
Great, great.
right? So might be he was one of the inspiration to me. I've never told him, I've never even dropped him a mail, but I want to tell him on this podcast. Thank you, Dheeraj,
Right.
for the inspiration that you put across, right? That was, I mean, so he was one of the motivation one.
We'll put his
Second,
picture
I
here.
would say a lot of
We'll put his picture here.
I mean, you can put a picture and you can tag
Yeah,
Dheeraj, right?
yeah.
Because Dheeraj,
I'll do that.
a, a random guy just pinged, a random guy came to my podcast and
Right.
talked about it. So he was one who motivated, I think, people like us that you can go get anything done under the sun. That was one. Second, I was very keen in listening to TED Talks. I don't know. I mean, it's very weird, but it's true. I mean, I'm a huge fan follower of Shah Rukh Khan.
Wow.
Right? So he was another motivation, inspiration, right? The way how he articulates things, I felt, I would say 10,000 miles away from what he does
Right,
now.
right.
So I used to literally, I mean, so awed by his aura, right? I used to listen to him multiple times, right? I mean, how does he talk to people? I've literally heard his TED talk minimum 20 times, I would say. So those are few things which help me articulate, talk in a structured fashion. Because unless you go and do that, it's almost impossible to go and not even excel, go and crack into this
Right.
ecosystem. So yeah, I would say imitating is a very long word, but yes, imitating people whom I follow, right, whom I got inspired from. So that helped me a lot.
Right. So basically, your journey has been the entire sum of perseverance, like and you've been like all that hardworking guy that uh, you working like 1.5x than other people right around the ecosystem, and then you're
Yep.
making through so I mean that the reason why no we are talking today, this is the reason, because I know that your journey was very inspiring, and I'll tell you, like, you will be a lot of inspiration for a lot of people now, right? Because I see that, I mean, we come from like very similar background, right? And I see that at least 70 to 80% of the people in India is basically into a similar as now, I mean, in the similar ecosystem, and they look up to people, right? Those who have made uh, achieved something in their life, right? And they look up to them, and want to follow the similar path. So I'm sure that a lot of people are going to follow you
Yep.
from today, sir. And someone in some podcast basically put your picture and said, "Oh, I've heard that guy saying that," and it's
I don't know. Wait, I don't know. I mean, it's too early, and I mean, I'm glad that you invited me to the podcast to share my story. I mean, it's not a very fascinating one, but yeah, I mean, a story of struggles, I would say. That's
I
all.
mean, I'm sure that you're going to go for the next 10 years. We're going to see you, like, I mean, and we're going to reflect back to this podcast and saying that, oh, this guy is now here. I mean,
Let's see.
awesome.
Let's see.
Great. So, I mean, how did this journey happen from like you were working in Bangalore to New York? If you can also tell us, like, because a lot of people have a no, I mean, they fantasize thinking this that no, ek din jaake yahan pe kaam karenge, right? No, New York, right? And those streets, those fancy buildings, and you made it from India to like New York. So tell us, like, how does that journey happen? And did you ever like visualize this? Did you ever like manifested this that this is going to happen to you?
Yeah, Paracheese, so I haven't made it. Right, it's always a work in progress, and
Yeah, I
it
mean,
remain a work in progress for the rest of my
right,
life.
right.
Right, अभी तक कुछ किया ही नहीं है मेरे जिंदगी में. Right, that's one. Yeah, so this is a story not from Bangalore to New York. So I want to write a book, and the title of the book will be might be the next 10 years. New Road to New York. So what does New Road to New York mean? So the place where I am from, actually, it's called Kulti. Kulti is like even 12 kilometers back from Asansol.
Okay.
That's like a very remote place, right? The place where I was born, I was there till I was 12. It was called New Road. So I always think, I was telling my mother the other day. So yeah, so journey from New Road to New York was not easy. We're just chit chatting, right? So yeah, so to answer your question, Meher, this has been, I would say, yes, fascinating, right? I mean, I had opportunities of moving to other countries when I was like 23, 24. I had an opportunity of moving to Australia. Then I had an opportunity of staying back at Dubai. But somehow, if you ask me, it was, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if it was meant to happen or not, but still, when I was a kid, I always thought that I would want to work at New York
Mm.
since I was like 17 or 18.
Right.
It's all manifestation, I would say.
Right.
That's all. I mean, I've never focused on that, but it was mainly manifestation and multiple opportunities to move on. But I've always waited to move to New York because I always felt that this is a place for all
Mm.
misfits, right? People who are all misfits, who do not obey the status quo. I personally feel New York and Silicon Valley are the two places for all
Mm.
misfits, right? So I, being a misfit during my engineering college, I always wanted to move to New York, being a misfit. So I would say, yeah, it's a journey of
Great.
manifestation, but these are just stepping stones. There is a lot of things to do ahead, and I'm sure I would want to contribute something back to India. I would want to employ people back in
Great.
India, have people like you and me, join us for building the next big company.
Right. Right. Awesome. Awesome. Great. We'll definitely, man. Definitely. And I'm doing something similar, like trying to build this at least information system for everyone, those who are like us back in India, right? And those who are dreaming for
Absolutely.
a better life. We are still work in progress, but I believe there's a part of contribution what I can give it back to our country. And people, those who are like hustling every day and working for, let's say, no 12 hours, 15 hours a day to build a better life and everything. Great, great. So coming down to your
Absolutely.
journey here in New York, like I see that you're building completely the community bank. I see you keep following your post. We'll put this here, right? I mean, your journey entirely. So you basically working with community banking right now, right? You're building their entire, I think, the portfolio system. You're completely taking the bank from 0 to 1, marketing for them. Then you're completely owning PNL. So I mean, this sounds very entrepreneurial to me. I mean, like this is something
Yep.
completely picking up them from the like basics and getting them up and running, right? So I
Yep.
mean, what was your like challenges here? I mean, like did it happen very smoothly, like because of your past experiences, or you had to like face some challenges and then bring up new learning to do this?
So let me try to answer this into two parts, right? Like why. One is why. Why did I even do
Mm.
it? One, and second, challenges, right? So, mate, I was working with Fortune 500s for
Mm.
years, almost 7 to 8 years,
Mm.
right? Then to realize that, you know, is this something what I want to do forever? Might be yes, might be no, right? Then I met someone, I mean, an exec from a credit union here in US, right? To understand what a credit union
Mm.
does. I was fascinated to know how credit unions and community banks do work. There are 10,000 credit unions and community banks back here in
Great.
US, right? So the way how these financial institutions operate, credit unions do not work for profit. They are non-profit. They focus on their members. What I mean, customers of a bank is equivalent to a member of a credit
Okay.
union, right? So they focus on members. They focus on member experience. They focus on members'
Mm.
needs. So it's legit that you're trying to help a person build his or her
Mm.
credit, get plan finances for the life, as well as help pick the next buy home or the next auto loan or the next vehicle, right? So in this way, these small institutions, they help move, I would say, an individual from point A to B. It's
Right.
legit. They help do that, and they do not do it for money.
Mm.
They do it because they passionately, honestly want to do it. They want to serve the
Mm.
community, right? That was a difference that attracted me to this ecosystem, because I've worked with other big institutions for years, right? But do all of them think across the same lines? No, right? So this was the reason I moved into it. One. Second, I thought that since I come from an experience of working with Fortune
Mm.
500s, my acceptance in credit unions and community banks would be amazing, right? But it was just opposite. People were like, I mean, Anurag, you don't even know our
Right.
problems. You don't even know what we stand for. You don't even know our basic
Mm.
principles. I was like, okay, so teach me. So I was absolutely
To
open
learning.
as I was, during my transition from IT to analytics. I was open. I was like, yes, I don't know it, right? But I will learn it and I will do it.
Great.
As simple as
Great.
that.
Great.
So I was absolutely candid. When I met credit union CEOs, I was candid. See, I don't know it. But one thing I know is analytics.
Mm.
One thing I know is working
Right.
hard. Will someone teach me what a credit union does? And there were, I would say, hundreds and hundreds of people who volunteered to teach me,
Wow.
right?
Wow.
What a credit
Nice.
union
Nice.
does,
Wow.
right? It
Nice.
was amazing. Yes. That's the reason, I moved into the ecosystem, and maybe in the last 2 years, people have even started trusting me,
Mm.
right? I work with now 10 plus credit unions, 5 plus community banks. I mean, I never expected, coming into the ecosystem as a stranger, people will actually trust and believe me that he can go and deliver results and help us move the needle from point A to point B. But people trusted me, and in this way, I started my journey with credit unions and community banks, and now I'm just passionate, right? If you ask me, Anurag, what do you want to do for the next 5 years of your life? I would say just helping credit unions succeed. That's all.
Great,
That's what I want to do.
great. Awesome, Anurag. Uh, picking up from your journey, like what I've realized is a lot of people, and this should be learning for a lot of people, right? We are not open to learning, right? What we believe that we have achieved something and then we want to stick to that particular portion. Now that blocks your success path, right? And I
Absolutely.
would completely relate this to it because I used to think that reaching out to people is difficult, but there are people who are ready to help you. You just need to knock their door, right? I mean, I've
Absolutely.
realized this after coming to Canada. I was like very conservative guy back in India, right? No, reaching out to people was not my thing. But when I came here, I saw
Yep.
that this is how the ecosystem works. People reach out to one another, and then the entire functions happen, right? So I've learned this skill to not hesitate to reach out to people, and that has opened so many doors for me, right? And I was like wondering, why didn't I do it earlier? I mean, like, what was stopping me? Nothing, right? It was just my guilt that no, what other people is going to think, right? That I don't know,
Yep.
right? I mean, no one judge you here. Like people,
Absolutely.
those who have made it are ready to help you. People, those who hasn't, they're going to judge you for that, right? Ki isko nahi aata hai, blah blah,
Exactly.
right? Those who have made it, they are going to help you in the
True.
journey, right? They're going to pull you up with them. So I mean, great, man. I mean, like, awesome. Thank you so much. Like, I mean, it was a great discussion. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people are going to pick a lot of stuff from this, right? And just a final thing,
I hope so.
Anurag, like, if you have any word of wisdom for people, those who are watching you, right? So the people, those who are watching you, should be in the age of 18 to 35, right? So if you have any words for them, right now, I mean, they could be sitting anywhere in the world, right? And I mean, possibly trying to excel in their life. So if you have a word of wisdom for them, that would be awesome.
I don't know if I have excelled in my career, or I will not. I don't know, right? But I always focus on doing things I love.
Hmm.
The day when I left my engineering campus, right, I decided one single thing. I did my engineering because my parents wanted me to go to an engineering school. But I did things that I loved in engineering
Great.
college. Obviously, not that doesn't mean writing, long queries in a RDBMS lab. I never did it. Let's face it that way, right? But the day I left my engineering campus, I promised myself one thing: I will do something that I love,
Hmm.
because this is life. This is no more a
Right.
campus. So from there on, I just did what I love. That's all. So I mean, it's a piece of advice for young people who are, I would say, between the age of 18 to
Hmm.
24, right? Even in an engineering campus, it's not necessary that you always need an MBA. It's not necessary, right? Just continue doing what you love doing. I know people who who have excelled in their careers in 10 years have become directors of
Hmm.
engineering at FAN,
Right.
right? Without any masters. It's about they just continue doing what they loved after engineering. They love softwares, they loved
Right.
engineering. They
Right.
loved it. So I would say yes, that's the most important thing. I mean, before I finish the podcast, it will be very unfair if I do not take, or rather if I do not thank another couple of people in my career, right? One is Vikas Sharma, my boss here at EXL. He trusts me so much, right? He's given me the headroom to experiment and go and do things on my own. One. Second, another one, Rubel Joseph. Rubel is another mentor. He heads data science globally for eClerx
Okay.
now. So he's another huge mentor in my life who has helped me shape and do whatever I do today. So yeah, would like to thank a couple of these two folks, and obviously my mom and dad who have trusted in me despite of me having visibly low GPs all the time. So it was a great discussion, Mihir,
Great. Great.
and I look forward to hearing more from
Right.
you.
Right. Great, man. Thank you so much. I mean, absolutely thriller. I think this is the best I have shot until now, right? And let's see how
I don't know that.
people reacts to it. I mean, everyone who is watching until now, like post in your comments, right? I'll reach out to Anurag to kind of help him, ask him to respond to all your questions, all your queries. And I think if he has some time, basically he'll
Absolutely.
get back to all of you guys. So thank you so much, and we'll see
Sure.
you in the next podcast.
Thank you.